Good morning and welcome to The Point. It is Wednesday, March 31st, 2021. Thank you to those of you joining us on the GBN Grenada Broadcasting Network's Facebook page, the Grenada Broadcasting Network's YouTube channel, the website www.gbn.gd, GBN TV channel 7, 11 and 20. Good morning to the listeners of Classic 105.5, 105.9, as well as the viewers on Party Grenada and Go to FET Facebook pages. Always a pleasure to have each and every one of you joining us on the program. This morning we are talking vaccines. I have joining me is the Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Shawn Charles, as well as Dr. Phillip Bonaparte, and they will be dispelling some of the myths that we have and giving us some more information, answering some questions that we may have about the vaccines. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
All is well with you both, I hope?
I believe so.
All right, Dr. Charles, I can't hear you.
Good morning. All is well here. Good morning to you. Good morning to my colleague, Dr. Bonaparte. And good morning to the listening audience.
Thank you so much. Pleasure to have you both joining us for the program this morning. All right, so we are talking about vaccines, and I know the ministry has been working toward dispelling some of the myths and encouraging people to get vaccinated as the program continues to roll out. So some of the myths that we have been hearing, a lot of people have concerns. Primary among them would be the possibility of blood clots. Some people are skeptical about the changes that the vaccine, the injection would make to their DNA. And so some of the myths that you've been hearing, gentlemen, what are some of those myths you've been hearing and how can you dispel them? How can you alleviate the concerns of members of the public?
Well, maybe I should allow my colleague to go first. I know we have been back and forth with many of these issues over the past weeks. And I know the public have been hearing the views of the Ministry of Health. I'm hoping that having a fresh face and a new perspective might convince and educate our population that many of these things that we see that are circulated widely because they seem very topical and fun in some instances. They're not real, and they are designed to do just what they are doing, to spread misinformation and to sow the seeds of doubt and cause persons to not accept an intervention that has been proven to be effective. So maybe I can allow Dr. Bonaparte to take a first jab at this.
Sure, and thank you so much. And Dr. Charles, I appreciate the opportunity, of course, to share this platform with you. Just to let folks know, I'm a Grenadian. I'm now in Grenada. I practice in the United States. I practice in New York and New Jersey, currently just in New Jersey. I've been a physician and SGU graduate of 32 years. And so I'm a son of the soil. My specialty is internal medicine. And I have been involved in the vaccination program and treating patients with COVID-19. So I'm not, something I've read. It's stuff that I've experienced. I run a vaccination clinic for the city of Trenton as the chief medical director, where we've already vaccinated thousands of Trentonians, a city of about 85,000 population, but also serve the Mercer County, folks. We have people who come in from different parts of the county as well. I'm also a minister, and I want to, share that. I also serve as the administrative bishop for the New Testament Church of God here in Grenada. I pastor one church in 3 locations in the United States. So I've always been busy. But let me just say this: as far as a myth is concerned, that people have, because they heard the word mRNA, let me speak about, there are different types of vaccines. And we know this historically, and just as a reality, vaccines save lives. And I'm pretty sure that each one of us at some point have been vaccinated, which protect us. And of course, over the years, we know have eliminated a certain disease from this part of the world, at least in the Western Hemisphere. Things like polio, things like smallpox, and we've seen that when people who have been successfully vaccinated, and I use the word successful here for a particular reason, that it increases the chance of, one, preventing an infection, and two, also, even if they may get infected with that, bacteria or virus or whatever that case is, we've seen in many instances, it has literally reduced the severity of the illness and or the likelihood of death, and especially hospitalization. Of course, everyone knows about COVID-19, so I need not get into that. But what I do want to share, as Dr. Charles stated, there is misinformation, but I will add there is also disinformation. There are people whose intent is to create chaos, that they purposely, knowing that the information they're sharing is wrong. It's a lie. It's not factual. It's not based on facts. And what we have in front of us is vaccines, several, and they continue to work on vaccines that are effective, first of all, and most importantly, that are safe, and we call effective or efficacious, and we have seen that also works in terms of saving lives. Many people say, well, I wouldn't take it, or I wouldn't get COVID. Grenada doesn't have COVID. We don't have any case now. But remember, vaccines are preventative. They are. We were told as children growing up by our parents that an ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure, and that if you can prevent something from happening and or minimize the risk, why not go ahead and do so? And I want to share that so that folks will understand it. And you're not just vaccinating to protect yourself, but you're also protecting the people around you. How COVID-19 spreads is from people to people, person to person, so that if I am vaccinated, when I'm exposed to it, usually it will stop right there. The chance or likelihood of me spreading it to others will diminish. And just talking about the mRNA, people were concerned in the early stage when they heard what was happening. It's going to affect your DNA. And, you may even see some quote unquote scientists speaking about it. Look, I can always find a dissenting voice somewhere because people have difference of opinion, but the facts speak to itself. It is a vaccine. If you take it as ordered or prescribed, it gives you a fighting chance and protection from COVID-19, severity of illness that will be almost non-existent, and hospitalization and death is really what we are hoping for, and it does protect you against that. I can keep going, but I will pause and I give Dr. Charles an opportunity to share.
Well, I couldn't have said it better. In addition, as we're aware, Grenada has not deployed an mRNA vaccine, but we have deployed the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine, which contains a piece of DNA that is carried in a viral vector. But in the end, all of the vaccines achieve the same. They allow our immune system, they prime our immune system and prepare our immune system to recognize the virus if someone gets infected, and to rapidly destroy this virus so that persons do not become severely ill and their chances of dying are reduced. This also reduces the number of persons who will go to a hospital, because I know that we are all aware that we have some limitations with regards to our capacity at the level of our hospitals. So the intent is to protect not just the person, but it is also to maintain the integrity of the health system, to allow persons to have some level of confidence in that they are protected, to allow activities to resume, because we do know that we are functioning in a somewhat limited capacity right now, because as you are aware, we have largely avoided any major outbreaks in Grenada. So our population remains vulnerable. All right, we do not have any great level of immunity in the population as a result of previous exposure and infection. And vaccination, we are confident, is the safest way to assist us in building immunity to achieving these purposes, protecting lives, and in a later stage, allowing persons to have some degree of normalcy and returning their livelihoods. And that is the purpose of our campaign.
First of all, what is the mRNA? What does it mean, and what's the difference between an mRNA vaccine and what we currently administer here in Grenada, the AstraZeneca?
Well, mRNA, the M, and it's a lowercase or a small m if you want to call it, that stands for messenger. The R is ribonucleic, and the N is nucleic, and the A is acid. So it's messenger ribonucleic acid. And all that speaks of is how it's developed as a messenger. Is consider you need a vehicle, like you want to get from point A to Sotes, and you get in a bus, and so that helps you to get there. Once you get there, you get off the bus, and the bus or van or car, whatever you use, continues on its way. And what is just a messenger as opposed to carrying a message to your body. The messenger RNA is degraded and removed from your body. That has been well studied. And let me just address this, because folks may say, well, why they come up with vaccines so quickly? I don't trust it. It's too quick. It takes 10 to 12 years ordinarily to come up with a vaccine, but they've been working on this technology for years prior to COVID-19. And coronavirus, which is a family of virus, has been around for a long time. And so I want people to understand. So this is not, I think they've even used it to a certain degree in the Ebola virus, and some people have had that. But this is the first time we've used the messenger RNA in this format. It is effective, highly effective. And I want to just bring home a point here, because some people say, well, when you get the vaccine, they're actually giving you the virus and you're going to get sick. No, the particular message that is being transmitted, and where we realize the virulence, referring to how infectious that COVID-19 is because of the spike protein. So if you consider a ball, right, a round surface, any ball, evenly surface, round surface ball, and you consider spikes coming from the surface of the ball, all over the ball, that's the picture of the coronavirus 19. And what they found is that because of the spike protein, it makes it infectious and deadly. And so what they've done is created, a vaccine that targets just that. And once your body sees the spike protein, it develops, and then we call it an antigen. You develop an antibody response. So it is only a messenger to introduce the spike protein, in this case, of coronavirus 19 into the body. Your body then will see it as something foreign. Your body has a natural defense mechanism that develops these antibodies, recognize it, and stores that information. So anytime in the future you are exposed to coronavirus 19, your body will respond by creating and preventing, so they can destroy in the early stage before the coronavirus 19 has an opportunity to multiply, and it multiplies rapidly, and your body does not have the time to respond to this massive replication within your system, and that what overcomes you, and you develop, severe infection and all the other complications that comes with COVID-19. The DNA form, which is we use what is called an adenovirus vector, and similarly, that actually, we work with adenovirus. These are family of viruses that has been around for a while. It is not a live form. It's only a messenger form. In that case, it's now bringing that spike protein into the body, and so your body will be able to respond to it. So if it's later exposed to anyone or anything that is coronavirus 19 related, it will have a defense mechanism already built in and to be able to attack it.
Earlier, you mentioned that there are people deliberately spreading false information, producing them and spreading them. And there are people who actually genuinely believe the misinformation that's being spread. What would you say to these kind of people? Because I still see comments. There's just one in the WhatsApp that what you're saying is all lies, they want to kill us. That's what's on the WhatsApp messenger. So there are people who believe what you call the misinformation. What would you say to these people? How can you alleviate their fears or change their thinking?
Sure. And first of all, I want everyone to know that you're entitled to your own opinion. And that's a God-given right. We will not force the vaccine or our information on anyone. We deal with facts in the scientific world. Before we say that these vaccines are okay to be taken, safety had to be established. There were several people. Let me just explain how scientific studies are done. You have two groups of people. They are randomly selected and placed in two arms, and we call this a randomized longitudinal study, meaning that, and double-blinded, meaning that the person who's receiving the vaccine doesn't know if they're getting a vaccine or pure water. Then the person who's given the vaccine, the doctors and nurses, don't know if they're given, water or the vaccine, or salt water or the vaccine, or sugar water, and follow them over time. So they measure them, they study them, they did blood tests on them to see if what was given, and of course, before they get to the human phase, they study to see, is this medicine that we're given, in this case vaccine, will it kill the virus? Is it effective against the virus in the test tube? And then they tried it on animals and see how they responded. Did it protect them? So there are various stages along the way that happens. And what we found is that those who received the vaccine were protected. 100% of all the vaccines we have protected from death. Then the percentage, and I know in the case of Oxford AstraZeneca, you have about a 63.9%. Anything over 50%, we consider to be effective and necessary, because in addition to protecting you from the virus, it also saves lives. And this is the key: 100% protective against life, 63.9% effective against the actually getting the disease, and most are protected from getting infected, so that they end up in the hospital, being on ventilators and an intensive care unit. As was stated before, that's the limited resources we have here in Grenada as far as ICU beds. So I think when you look at it all and put it in place, to the person who's saying, I ask that person, show me your evidence. Show me why, after now in the world, I can easily say, or truthfully say, well over 200 plus millions of people have received the vaccine worldwide. Well over 200 million have received the vaccine worldwide, and continue to receive the vaccine at a high percentage rate as more vaccines, different kinds, are made available to the world. And if that is the case, as it relates to the vaccine, there's a bunch of lies. The evidence, when they look at the study, show at both 12 weeks and which is 3 months, and when they look at it throughout, they find that the people who had the vaccine were protected from the coronavirus 19 infection, protected from death, protected from being hospitalized with it. No one from these studies have been hospitalized who received the full vaccine. Remember, the Oxford AstraZeneca and the two mRNA, Pfizer and the Moderna vaccines are two shots. There is one, of course, that is out and approved. I know in the United States, the Johnson & Johnson one, that's a one-shot vaccine and is equally as effective not just when you get the vaccine. You need to also wait at least 2 weeks after the last or the second shot for those who receive the 2-dose vaccines before you become what we call appropriately immune, meaning that your body needs time to develop the antibody response, which is your protector that will fight off the virus so that the vaccine is effective in your body.
What I'll do at this point is take a break and come back, because there are a lot of questions that members of the public have, and I think this would help with Dr. Charles and Dr. Bonaparte here that can answer these questions. So let's get to them quicker than, I guess, normal. To the point. We'll be right back. Let's take a quick break.
Greetings. This is Eugene Gattuso, and I'm inviting you to join me every Saturday morning from 10 to 12 on K105 starting March 20th as we bring you the brand new program Grenada's Music to the World. We'll be featuring music from all genres by Grenadian artists at home and abroad. If you're a Grenadian artist and would like to get your music featured on the program, please send it to grenadasmusictotheworld@gmail.com. Celebrating our own Saturday mornings 10 to 12 Classic Radio beginning March 20th. See you then.
Grenadians in New York are coming together to pay tribute to our nation's COVID-19 victims and other people who died during the pandemic. The recognition would be in the form of a service of remembrance that would be streamed live via Zoom from Our Lady of Refuge RC Church in Brooklyn on April 18th. Streaming would begin at 4 p.m. and end at 5:30 p.m. under the theme Remembrance, Recognition, and Tribute. Grenadian culture will be showcased in performances from gospel artists, prominent Calypsonians, and the popular cultural group Quake USA. Now, we need your support in providing us with the names of your loved ones who were lost because of COVID. Please email the names to covidmemorialgnd@gmail.com. That's covidmemorialgnd@gmail.com. Let's all remember our dear Grenadians who COVID has taken from us. Zoom in to the live stream Sunday, April 18th at 4 p.m. from Our Lady of Refuge RC Church in Brooklyn. God bless.
GBN Television News at 7, a pulse on all things Grenadian. Look out for our new features through expanded synergies with our media partners in Barbados, St. Lucia, Jamaica, Trinidad, and beyond. Capturing the latest in news, sports, weather, and entertainment. Credible, informative. Thank you for making us number one. News at 7, live, Monday to Friday on GBN Television, Channel 7 and 11. K105.5 and 105.9, Hot 98.5 and 98.7, GBN Television Facebook page and YouTube channel, and www.gbn.gd. GBN, with you anywhere and everywhere.
Welcome back to The Point, speaking with Chief Medical Officer Dr. Shawn Charles as well as Dr. Phillip Bonaparte. We're talking about vaccines, dispelling some of the myths that and answering questions that our viewers and listeners may have. It is at this point in the program we are going to open the platforms. 435-2041, that's the landline number. Please keep your questions as short as possible, 1 minute or less, so that we can get to as many of the concerns as we possibly can during the time allotted. Landline 435-2041. WhatsApp is also 435-2041. Please, only written messages on WhatsApp, and you can continue posting your comments, questions, queries, concerns on Facebook and YouTube. So let's go to this first caller, please. 1 minute. Good morning, caller.
Good morning to Blossom and to the two distinguished gentlemen. First of all, let me quickly say that I am neither a skeptic I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I take good care of myself. I eat healthy. I exercise. I don't smoke. I don't use alcohol because I care about my health. But I just want to get facts, and I want to be sure that whatever I'm putting in my body is safe. 3 questions for Dr. Bonaparte quickly. First of all, I want you to explain to us what you mean by successfully vaccinated. Secondly, you said that once a person is vaccinated, if the virus comes in contact with you, it stops right there. I wanted you to tell me if this has been proven by the data so far of people who have been vaccinated, and why are we still having the protocols? And the third quick question is, in Canada and the USA and other countries, they use different vaccines for different demographics and age groups. In Grenada, we have a one-size-fits-all. Is this safe to give the same vaccine to everybody? These are my 3 questions.
Thank you very much. Docs?
Sure. If I can answer, may I?
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Sure. The first one, when I speak about successful vaccination for those and both, all forms of the vaccine, we recommend for those who get into the vaccine that has 2 shots, meaning you need to get one in the Pfizer 3 weeks later, which is 21 days afterwards, you'll get a second shot. The Moderna is 4 weeks apart. And then for the AstraZeneca, the recommendation is anywhere from 8 to 12 weeks after the first shot. And I think in Grenada, it is given in the 10th week after the first shot. So the point I'm making there is that if you had 1 shot in a 2-shot vaccine, that's not a successful vaccination. And then in addition, even in the Johnson & Johnson one, when you receive that 1 shot, it is not immediately effective. And I'll come back and share with you some recent data. We know for both the Moderna and for the Pfizer, and I'll answer all 3 questions of yours. They are legitimate questions, and I appreciate you taking good care of your health. I encourage you and others listening to do the same, to eat properly and to exercise as much as you can. So let me just answer that. For that 2 group, this is recent. It's recent in this week, earlier this week. We found out that the ongoing studies, because this is all new, right, to us. It's only about a year old, and as far as people who've been vaccinated, so we've had about 70 or more thousand people who are part of the studies, and now you have millions of people who are literally, myself included, who have been vaccinated with with different types of vaccine. Here's what we know: they found out that 80% of the people who've received 1 dose of the Moderna Pfizer about 2 weeks after that shot have developed immunity in terms of protection, or 3 weeks going to 4 weeks before they get the second vaccine. And 90% of the people who have had both vaccines, 2 weeks after, have shown significant immunity in terms of protection and also spread of the coronavirus. The reason why, one size fits all, and I could tell you this, is a matter of ease of distribution and caring and for the vaccine itself. The Pfizer vaccine, as you know, requires you to have, really cold temperatures. And we have that ability here, but it's not as easily and readily accessible and available. You're looking at minus 70 degrees Celsius. You have to keep the vaccine in that temperature. Once you've taken it out and you've thawed it out, meaning it is no longer frozen, it is now in liquid form, you have to use the vaccine within X amount of time. If you break the vial, you can, it's only good for so many hours. So from a practicality perspective, from a practical perspective, in this climate where our average temperature is 80 degrees, and I'm going now in terms of Fahrenheit, but 20-something degrees Celsius, it will not be feasible for us to be able to have these vaccines and to distribute it throughout the island with, cooling centers is not just possible. So we use what we have. I can tell you in the clinic that I oversee, we don't use a Pfizer. We only use the Moderna. So everyone who comes in, everyone, they don't have a choice. You take what you're given. And some people may say, well, now there is a one-shot vaccine. I only want the one shot. But in our settings, whatever we have, we give. And the Pfizer vaccines are often given in institutions that have that cooling capacity, such as the hospitals and maybe the military who have, access to those. So someone receiving the vaccine as a nurse or doctor in a hospital, they will have access to that. As far as the age is concerned, only the Pfizer vaccine has been studied in terms of gone through the clinical study on people age 16 and above. The Moderna and the others, including the Oxford AstraZeneca, have looked at, adults or, young adults and adolescents from age 18 up. So that goes into it. We're not saying it's not effective, but it has not been studied. And right now, studies are undergoing where I know for Moderna, from 3 months of life, they're looking at the study, placebo versus the vaccine. Does it work? That's how we determine if a medicine or a vaccine works, because we also know that you may have some placebo effect, in some cases, but does it really work? Does this ingredient work? And, so that answers the key, I believe the third question. And as far as you're concerned, we use what's available to us. As far as I know in the research I've done, those vaccines cost money. So you're looking at availability of those vaccines. Is it available to, developing countries such as Grenada? And I believe that Grenada and other countries in the Caribbean receive some, I would say, benevolence from other countries and that have actually contributed. So we take what they give us. And I'm pretty sure that the Oxford AstraZeneca is looking for emergency use authorization in the United States. If they have not yet done so, I believe they were looking to present the data for review and approval in the United States as well. And America plans to also share those vaccines with developing countries in Canada and Mexico and other places as well. So I want you to, in Mexico rather, but I know other places like Canada have those. The key to note is this, and I understand the hesitancy and the concern, and you should have those. No one is knocking you or is coming against you for having questions and concerns. I think that is the correct way to do it. Our job is to give you the facts, and there is no hidden agenda or interest other than trying to save lives, to protect the resources, and also to get Grenada, which let me just say this, I didn't say it at the beginning, I should have. I am amazed and proud to be a Grenadian, to see the phenomenal job that the Department of the Ministry of Health has done in this country. When you compare Grenada, and I've recently done that as recently as earlier this week, when I went in and looked at the World Health Organization data to see where Grenada is strategically positioned because of decisions that have been made to lock down, to quarantine, so to speak, and to have curfews in place. Grenada is a model. To think that only one person died in this nation from COVID-19 is nothing short than a miracle when you consider what's happening in Jamaica, Barbados, and Vincent, even Trinidad and Tobago, and how long they've had to keep things shut down. We have been blessed. And vaccine will allow us to open up more and to be able to get back to some form of normalcy. When you consider places like Israel, the nation of Israel, who have a higher percentage, I believe now they have about close to 60% of the population fully vaccinated. So they're closer to what we call herd immunity, so that you will understand the more people in the community that are vaccinated, the more likely the infectious rate of COVID-19 in that community will drop, meaning less people will be exposed, even though they're exposed, will catch COVID-19. And that is one of the things I want folks to understand. The more, and we call this herd immunity, and you're looking at around 75 or 70, some may say 70, 75 to 85%. If more and more Grenadians can be protected, not just living healthy, but also have a level of protection by having their immune system being boosted and strengthened to protect against COVID-19, will make this nation a much safer place. We still have our regulations as far as people coming in, having and tested and quarantined, but it protects you, especially those who are most at risk.
Okay. Facebook, how long does the vaccine stay in your body?
Well, the question is, I mentioned that immediately the vector or the medium or the messenger is eliminated right away in terms of its protein breakdown. The vaccine, when I say stay, remember it's an antigen. It will be eliminated, but your body responds by producing antibody. The antibody response is your own. Your body memory cells remembers these, and there are certain lymphocytes we call B and T lymphocytes that work in that fashion. But the primary purpose here, especially the T lymphocytes, they work in this manner so that they can, it's like it's in my memory bank. It's like I stored it. So the next time your body sees the antigen, remember, it is eliminated from your body like anyone who has COVID-19. Usually over a period of weeks or months, the COVID is eliminated from the body, gets through if they're still alive. I mean, that they've already eliminated it. It gets out of the system. But there is what we call a period of time when you can spread the virus to others, and that means that you're still infectious. There's a reason why we say, if you're exposed to someone with COVID, or if you have COVID-19, you have to quarantine for 2 weeks, 14 days. We believe that that's the time it takes for your body to completely for your body to get rid of the actual COVID-19.
So the vaccine stays in your body forever?
No. The vaccine doesn't stay in your body forever. And that's the reason why we recommend that in somewhere in the future, like we do for influenza, and somewhere in the future, you may need to have a booster shot. And I want to go back to it. So the vaccine itself is eliminated. It's an introduction of the protein, the spike protein. Your body develops a response, an antibody response to it. And then over time, that memory or response is weakened, as we do for measles. People get a booster shot. We can test and see, do you have an immune response, an antibody response to this particular vaccine that you've received. Okay. And so this is nothing new. I want folks to understand it. It's not that, your body is now has memorized the exposure to this antigen, and it stays. Now, if you're infected from certain virus, let me just use this because some people will think that and understand. There are a few viruses that stay in your body, at least one in particular that is common, folks should know, and that is called, from how people develop shingles, and that is what we call chicken pox. Chicken pox, the virus goes into what we call, and I'm being technical for those medical on the call, listening on Facebook, dorsal root ganglion area within your nervous system, and it hides out there. And under severe stress, some people who have taking chemotherapy, people who are immunocompromised from being deficient in certain things, lack of sleep for a prolonged period of time, they will get shingles unless they receive a vaccine that will also prevent you from getting shingles, and that's available, today, and some people have access to that as well. So I want to go back to this. Most virus will get out of the system. Your body won't have it anymore. Okay.
Let's go to another caller. Good morning, caller. All right, we lost that caller. On Facebook, somebody is asking, persons that had COVID, why should they get the vaccine when they're protected with the antibodies? So if you've already had the COVID-19, why should you still get the vaccine?
I can answer that, but I'll give that to Dr. Charles. I want to hear your voice, sir.
All right. So there are many things that we do not know and we do not understand about COVID as yet. One of the things that we do not know is how long the immunity lasts, how effective the immune response is after infection. And for this reason, it is encouraged that even persons who have had COVID, they should get vaccinated, because this further boosts the immune response in the event that they're exposed, because you can get reinfected. All right, this is to boost the immune response in the event that they are exposed in the future.
A WhatsApp question. Actually, no.
And if I can just add to that, this is not theory. This is reality. I have a patient who got infected with COVID twice, and the second go around, it was worse than the first. They've also studied people testing the blood, sampling, taking blood samples over time who had COVID, and they realized that their antibody response wanes, meaning at least, and that's why we say at least 3 months, and no for here in the United States, 3 months after you are now eligible. And that's the reason why President Trump, though he had COVID, got the vaccine with his wife before he left in January, because even though he had COVID, this gives him not just added protection, but key protection. What we've also noted is that because of the new variants or new strains that you hear and see, that you hear about, the UK strain, the South African strain, the Brazilian strain, and it continues, even within the other parts of the Caribbean and in the US, the New York strain. These vaccines, although they may not be 100% protective against this new strain, because it's against the spike protein in itself, it gives you protection against, to a high degree, in some cases 80, 85%, 70% protection against the mutated or the new strain. So if you had COVID, the regular, normal COVID, the first, or COVID-19, the novel one that came on the scene early last year, and you now are exposed to the United Kingdom strain, the B117, that is causing havoc in Europe right now, your body does not seem to give you much protection against that. But when you have a vaccine that is effective against that strain, and they're making vaccines now specific against those variants, I think that will be helpful. Just wanted to point that out as well.
Good morning, caller.
Good morning. Now, we have mystery in medicine, and mystery is not good for people's health. Now, I've heard the goodly doctor, and he's explaining everything professionally, well academically tuned and everything. But there's something that I need to understand. Now, we have a vaccine which we know nothing about as the ordinary people. Now, isn't it a good thing for scientists or people who develop the vaccine and know the ingredients in the vaccine to come and on the television or wherever and explain to us what is in the vaccine, for and against, those opposing and those for, discuss it so that the nations of the world will understand what exactly is the ingredients of the vaccine. Up to now, people are not sure because there's no debate, no public debate by both sides. We need public debate by both sides, not one side. Thank you very much.
Thank you, caller. Docs?
The thing is, I believe the components of the vaccines have been well explained. Maybe the question is whether the individuals and the caller understand what the persons are saying, and maybe he would like a simpler explanation. As with regards to the AstraZeneca vaccine, the vaccine is made up of an adenovirus viral vector that contains a piece of genetic material that stimulates the production of the spike protein, which generates an immune response. Now, it is perhaps the language is a bit difficult for the caller to understand. Maybe simply state it is a vector, a carrier of a gene for the spike protein that is taken into our cells that causes our body to make the spike protein, which triggers our immune system to create protection against the COVID virus. This is what the vaccine contains. Now, the vaccine triggers what are called neutralizing antibodies, or antibodies that can fight against and cause the destruction of the viruses. That is why if someone is exposed in the future and they become infected, their bodies, their immune systems will quickly produce those neutralizing antibodies. It will destroy those viruses and prevent them from multiplying. And that is how the protection comes about. I'm not sure if there is a simpler way to explain it, but that is this is what it is.
Let me go to.
And if I can just add, to that, I've heard folks concerned about it say, well, especially the Christian community concerned, well, they use, dead babies to make the vaccine. And when you look at the content, and, that is easily available, you can Google it and find it. The ingredients are all there. Polysorbate, polyethylene glycol, water, a bit of dextrose or sugar, maybe some sodium. It is simple liquid. So when folks come up with things like, well, the mark of the beast is what they're giving you, don't take the vaccine, and all those different things. It's like with any other vaccines. And remember, children get vaccines at birth to protect them. And I want folks to understand that the world is in a better place today because vaccination worked and because it saved lives. And I want to go back, and I understand it is new, but until we have something better, I want to say this is the best we've got in terms of prevention with the other things that we do or we have, such as wearing a mask when you're in public, especially if you're in closed settings, keeping social distancing and washing your hands regularly, and try not to touch your mouth, nose, or nostril, or nose and your eyes. These are some of the basic stuff. If we continue to do those and don't slack up, even if you don't hear a case recorded, in public by the Ministry of Health, you act as though everyone else around you has it, and you protect yourself and your family and others by doing that.
A WhatsApp question. The pharmaceutical companies have paid out over $40 billion in settlements due to side effects from the vaccines. This is the first RNA vaccine, which means it alters your DNA. It has not even completed the trials and tests a normal vaccine would, meaning it has been emergency approved. The vaccine makers are protected by laws. They cannot be held liable for any damages, which means it was planned far in advance. Why is this vaccine so important if the recovery rate is 99.7%? And why is the coronavirus patented? Isn't it only legal to patent something man-made, which means it is not of nature?
All right, so you see, some of these ideas, when they're expressed like this, they're meant to convey a certain idea to the public. Now, what we must remember is that there have been over 127 million people infected by the coronavirus. There have been over 2.7 million deaths as a result of COVID. The vaccines were created as an intervention to reverse that, to control this global pandemic. The vaccines are part of the solution, but in the mind of individuals who wish to sow confusion, they have instead turned the vaccines into the enemy, into what is dangerous and what is deadly, and they are at the same time distracting persons from the real issue, which is the catastrophe that has been COVID-19 over the past few months. Since this pandemic has started, the world has changed. It has brought tremendous suffering throughout the world. But the strong anti-vaccine tide have managed to confuse so much the mind of some individuals that they are searching for half facts and partial truths and string them all together to make the vaccine seem as the enemy. This is a disastrous path. And for the individuals who believe and who spread these things, it can only lead to more suffering and more death. What we need to focus on is that we are faced with a pandemic and we have a solution. Stop making the cure the enemy. The enemy is the disease. And that is how I would respond to that statement made by the individual.
And if I could just add briefly to that, I'll try my best to be brief. The point, something of a difference that you're talking about, 1 point or whatever, 2% of the people, who have died, may not seem like a lot when it's, let's say, Grenada, when 155 or 50-something people were infected with COVID and only one death. So it doesn't look like a lot. But when you're talking about the risk of billions of people worldwide, it's in all country of the world. You do the math, and it's someone's parent, child, spouse, sibling, uncle, aunt that we're talking about. Then the second thing I want to point out is about 30% of the people who survive COVID-19 are living today with symptoms known as, we call them the long haulers, meaning they survived COVID, but they still live with headache every day, brain fog, heart problems, kidney problems. They continue to have problems with the neurological system, with the mental health, and what is not even added, because it's not just life and death, and though that is critical. Think of the economy of the world. Think of people today who have taken their lives because they cannot produce. Think about the mental health impact that the cause of COVID has caused on not just adults, but especially our children. I keep hearing repeatedly parents who've lost their children. They've taken their lives. They don't have hope. They're unable to play with their, or to meet up with their fellow, students and their friends. And they are unable to come together. They're prevented from their parents. They can't see their grandparents. They can't, mingle. They can't do these things. And the only way forward that we see us eliminating or having this COVID-19 pandemic under control is this worldwide approach of getting people vaccinated. And that is the protection that we see. and I will recommend that.
We are out of time, gentlemen, but Dr. Charles, in relation to the variant, the Kent variant that we discovered in the Jamaican National, which is our current active case, what can you tell us about chances of it spreading, whether it's via him or somebody else maybe coming into the island? What can you tell us in relation to that specific variant?
Well, what I can tell you is that the individual came in and he was in quarantine up to the point when he was identified as positive, and he has remained in isolation since. So the entry protocols have given us some degree of comfort that the potential for spread is less. Okay?
Okay. 20 seconds, final thoughts. We need to wrap the program. Very briefly.
Well, I would just encourage everyone to, you need to read through the misinformation and see this disease for the seriousness which it carries. We have been fortunate. We have been spared the brunt because of all the hard work and all the restrictions and so on. But this disease is not done with the world yet. In fact, on the contrary, what is appearing is that another wave is about to start. And we know that this wave is being fueled by the new variants that have developed. We're encouraging all our population, continue to be vigilant, get vaccinated, follow all the preventive measures, keep yourself, your family, and your country safe.
All right. Okay. So thank you very much, Dr. Charles, Dr. Bonaparte. Continue spreading or dispelling the misinformation that we have and continue educating members of the public. There are still a lot of questions that I have not gotten to as yet based on the time restraint. So hopefully we can do this again and we can get back to some of those questions. Yes? All right.
Sure.
Enjoy the rest of your day, gentlemen. Thank you, viewers and listeners, for tuning in to The Point. Yes, I know there are still questions, but based on time, we have to end the program here. Hopefully, either of the gentlemen or they both may be back on another program, especially when government has its slot on Wednesdays. But in the meantime, we're going to end here as we prepare for the West Indies Sri Lanka third day of the second test on Classic 105. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. I'll be back tomorrow, God willing. Have a good one.